Mars, ante, red planet. From a distance, it's a silent, desolate world of rust and rock. But on this day, beneath its serene facade, the drums of war were about to pound. Colonel Raiden Cole stood on the precipice of Valles, a canyon system so vast it dwarfed anything on Earth. Before him, a colossal dust storm was churning, rising from the plains, not like a weather pattern, but like a living, breathing beast awakening from a long slumber. The wind howled, carrying grains of red sand that stung his faceplate. Behind him, Strike Team Argo 7 was a picture of deadly efficiency. They were the best of the best, humanity's finest. They ran final checks on their pulse rifles. The soft hum of energy coils filling the air, their magnetic shields shimmered with latent power, and a swarm of small, insect-like drone scouts hovered silently, awaiting their commands. Their mission, on paper, was straightforward. A group of human miners, part of the new terraforming initiative, had gone dark. The official directive was clear. Recover the missing personnel, neutralize any unknown threat, and above all, come back alive. But anyone who'd spent more than a week in this crimson dust bowl knew the truth. Mars never, ever gives easy missions. With a final nod from the colonel, Argo 7 descended into the abyss, their heavy boots kicking up clouds of fine red dust. The entrance to the mining complex was a gaping wound in the rock face, unnervingly silent. As they moved into the darkness, the only sounds were their own breathing and the distant whisper of the storm outside. But then, a new sound joined the symphony of silence, a scraping noise, metal against stone, echoing from deep within the labyrinthine corridors. It was a grating, rhythmic sound, like something enormous being dragged. The team advanced cautiously, weapons raised. The emergency lights that lined the tunnels flickered erratically, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on the eyes. A sudden movement caught a soldier's attention. High above, something skittered across the ceiling with unnatural speed, a dark shape disappearing into a ventilation shaft before anyone could get a clear look. The air grew cold, a sudden, biting chill that had nothing to do with the Martian night. The temperature inside their suits dropped several degrees in a matter of seconds. Then, a voice crackled through their private ComC channel. It wasn't human. It was a low, guttural whisper, ancient and filled with a chilling resonance that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. Leave our ground. The voice was everywhere and nowhere at once. Before Colonel Cole could even issue a command, the very walls around them began to groan. Cracks spider-webbed across the reinforced rockcrete. And then, with an explosive burst, entire sections of the tunnel walls split open. From the newly formed alcoves emerged 6 figures, each one a nightmare of alien biology and armor. Te were tal. Impossibly so, their bodies encased in what looked like chiseled obsidian. Glowing blue light emanated from the seams of their armor and from their piercing, multifaceted eyes. They were the Xaltric Hunters, ancient guardians of Mars, roused from a sleep that had lasted for millennia. For a tense moment, nobody moved. The Xaltric didn't attack immediately. Instead, they scanned the human soldiers, their blue eyes lingering on the pulse rifles and advanced weaponry. They seemed to be assessing, judging. Breaking the silence, Colonel Raiden raised his rifle, the targeting laser painting a red dot on the lead warrior's chest. His voice was firm, betraying none of the shock that was coursing through him. We're not leaving without our people. We're taking them home. The air itself seemed to tremble in response. The lead Xaltric let out a guttural roar, and then it lunged. It didn't run. It exploded forward, a blur of motion like a meteor fired from a cannon. It slammed into one of Argo 7's point men with devastating force, the impact of the collision throwing the soldier clear across the hall. His armor crumpled like foil, and he didn't get up. Chaos erupted. The other Xaltric followed suit, their movements a terrifying blend of speed and brute strength. They wielded blades forged from pure energy, brandished fists that could punch through solid steel, and unleashed waves of psychic force that disoriented and stunned the soldiers. But Strike Team Argo 7 was not icily broken. They were trained for the unknown, for the impossible. They fought back with disciplined fury. The narrow corridors lit up with flashes of plasma and laser fire. Drones zipped through the air, their targeting lasers painting the Xerath in a crisscrossing web of light before unleashing pinpoint streams of energy. A well-aimed grenade detonated, engulfing a Xerath in a sphere of blue fire. The ground shook violently as Colonel Cole braced himself and fired his shoulder-mounted rail cannon. The hypersonic slug hit a Xaltric Hunter square in the chest, the kinetic energy sending it flying backward to smash into a rock wall, where it lay still. But for every victory, there was a greater loss. For every Xerath that fell, 2 more seemed to crawl out of the solid rock of the mine itself. They emerged from the walls and the floor as if they were living statues waking from a deep, stone sleep. The fight was unwinnable. The objective shifted in an instant. This wasn't a rescue anymore. It wasn't even a fight. It was a desperate struggle for survival. The new mission was simple. Get out. Warn Earth. Fall back. Deeper into the mine. Cole yelled over the comms, his voice strained. The team retreated, firing as they ran, their disciplined withdrawal turning into a desperate sprint through the dark, alien-infested tunnels. They broke through a final, sealed bulkhead and stumbled into a cavern so immense it felt like they had stepped into the heart of the planet. The air hummed with an incredible, ancient power. Suspended at the very center of the colossal chamber, bathing everything in an ethereal crimson glow, was a massive, pulsating red sphere. It was the source of the energy, the heart of the Xerath's power. Cole knew, with a terrifying certainty, that this was the Martian core Hearten artifact of unimaginable age and power. It was the technology that created and controlled the Xerath Guardians. Destroying it might stop the Horde, or it might trigger a cataclysm that would vaporize them all. But they had no choice. Aliens were already pouring into the chamber from dozens of tunnels, their blue eyes burning with cold fury in the red light. They were surrounded, outnumbered 100 to 1. "Cover me," Raiden screamed, his voice raw. He broke into a dead sprint, charging directly toward the floating core. He weaved and dodged through a maelstrom of energy blades, concussive blasts, and invisible waves of telekinetic force that tried to crush him. A Xerath materialized directly in his path, its massive, clawed hand clamped around his throat, lifting him off the ground. The pressure was immense, his helmet groaning under the strain. Vision blurring, he fumbled for a plasma detonator on his belt. With a surge of adrenaline, he jammed the device into a seam in the alien's chest armor and triggered it. The resulting explosion was contained but devastating, blowing the Xerath apart from the inside out and sending Raiden tumbling to the floor. He scrambled to his feet, gasping for air, his throat bruised and raw. He was meters from the core heart. With his last reserve of strength, he lunged forward and slammed his armored gauntlet directly into the glowing sphere. A piercing, soul-shattering scream echoed through the chamber, not a sound, but a psychic shockwave that threw the remaining soldiers to the ground. The artifact fractured, brilliant red light pouring from the cracks like blood. The entire chamber began to shake violently. All around them, the Xerath horde froze in place. Their movement ceased. Their glowing eyes dimmed. Their obsidian bodies began to crumble, turning back into stone, then dust, and then nothing. "Go. Now," Raiden roared as the ceiling of the great cavern began to collapse. The survivors of Argosavan scrambled out just as the entire mine complex imploded behind them, the ground swallowing the ancient secrets of Mars once more. They reached the surface, bruised, battered, and utterly exhausted, just as the first rays of the Earth-like sun breached the horizon, painting the red landscape in hues of gold and orange. Raiden Cole fell to his knees, breathing heavily, the recycled air in his helmet tasting thin and stale. He looked back at the plume of dust rising from the collapsed mine and whispered to himself, "Mars doesn't belong to us, but to they. We survived it." A crackle of static filled his helmet. It was the clear, distant voice of Earth Command. "Argo 7, this is Command. What is your mission status? Over." Raiden took one last look at the ruins behind him, at the dawn of a new day on a planet that was far from dead. He keyed his comms, his voice steady and cold as ice. "Command, this is Cole. Mission objective incomplete. We have confirmed hostile, intelligent life. This is not a simple threat. This is an ancient army. Advise High Command, prepare for war.